And welcome to the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast and a special podcast with the Expert CRE Secrets podcast. I'm your host, Brett Swarts. Each episode, we are joined by some of the best in real estate, in financial world, in wealth building, in business building, all to help you create and preserve more wealth using either the Deferred Sales Trust or understanding how to invest into different multifamily investment deals. And I'm excited about our next guest here. He is a multifamily expert, and he has a passion for helping others build wealth when it comes to real estate investing. And he also has been a part of a company, jakeandgino.com, where you can learn more about him. Please welcome to the show with me. Gino, I messed all of that up really bad because I lost my page here. I was going back and forth. So hold on, everybody.
Dude, it's funny because I print everything out. That's exactly why I always have hard copies, because it never fails. Shit always.
That one hit the fan. Here we go. We're gonna do that one more time. Ready?
You got it. I'm ready, bro.
my person will fix that. Go 3, 2, 1 here. Welcome to the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast. It's also a side podcast here, Expert CRE Secrets, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax referral options. I'm your host, Brett Swarts, and each episode I'm joined by some of the best in real estate, finance, wealth, and business building, where we share our ideas, deal stories, and inspiration. So together we can make complex tax referral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. I'm excited about our next guest. Okay, you can first of all find him at jakeandgino.com, and he is focused on helping people become experts in multifamily investing, as well as becoming entrepreneurial when it comes to investing in multifamily. And he's going to tell us more of his story. Please welcome to the show with me, Gino Barbaro. I'm going to make sure I pronounce that right? Gino Barbaro?
Yes.
Okay. Excellent, Gino. You're up. Tell me more about your story, Gino, and your current focus.
Brett, this has been a roller coaster ride with me for the last couple minutes. My camera doesn't work. We can't do the intro right. But that's what it is about being an entrepreneur. And that's what life's all about. It's about committing and then figuring it out. And being an entrepreneur is tough. I spoke in front of a group of college students at Flagler College last week, and I asked them to define what an entrepreneur is. And they had some great definitions. I said, definition of an entrepreneur is someone who makes enough money to pay for their mistakes. That's what it comes down to, right? You're out there, you're figuring it out every day. And if you can stick in it long enough, it's an amazing life. I've got an amazing life right now. I'm working towards my sole purpose. I've got more than enough money that I'll ever need. I've got 6 wonderful kids. My wife is amazing. And I'm living the entrepreneurial lifestyle, but it's not what you think when you first start out. There are those days when the technology doesn't work, when you can't read the script, when you're figuring out, how does this deal even make sense? Where am I going to make my next paycheck? Why am I going to work and working 14 hours a day? I'm working on the holidays. I'm working on the weekends. This sucks. This is not what the entrepreneurial life is, but if you can stick in long enough, man, let me tell you, it is fantastic.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, right? And from behind the scenes, we try to make our production as clean and crisp as possible. But to be honest, this is exactly what you kind of trip, fall, and you go live and you go with what you have in the given day. And so I appreciate you sharing that. Now, for our listeners getting to know you for the first time, Gino, give us a little bit more about your story and your current focus.
Sure. I'll keep this as brief as possible. I'm almost 50 years old. I've got 6 kids. We homeschool our kids. Most important facet of my life is my children. Got out of college a long time ago, back in 1992. Couldn't get a job. Went to work for AIG for a year. I hated to sit in a cubicle. I'm sure a lot of your listeners out there are like, wow, that is painful. And it was painful for me. And I decided to go on, quote unquote, the entrepreneurial route. My father owned a restaurant, so I decided to open a restaurant with the family. And I loved it. For the first 10 or 15 years, it was awesome. We were making great money. It was just a different economy back then. And everyone says, oh, the good old days. They were just a different old days. It was a different way to make money. You could live a great middle-class lifestyle by having one business, one stream of revenue, and doing really well. Expenses were less. I mean, you didn't have all these luxuries we have today. Cell phones, I'm paying $200 a month for my cell phone. That's what my mom's mortgage was 30 years ago. You know what I'm saying? So if you put things in relativity, we had one car. Now everyone's got a car, right? I mean, it's just amazing the luxuries we have. So I loved it up until 2008. My father passes away in 2007, and I sit there and I say to myself, am I living his dream or am I living my dream? I always wanted to create this amazing business, amazing lifestyle, and the restaurant really didn't let me have that lifestyle. I had to work on the weekends. I had to work on Christmas. I had to work on New Year's, on Easter. And as you get older and you start having more kids, it starts draining on you. I didn't want my kids to see me hate work, right? Because I want my kids to love to work hard. And I always worked hard, but I started dreading it, coming home and not liking it. So I'm like, what's the next step in my life? What am I going to do? I'm in mid-30s. I'm probably where a lot of the listeners are right now. I'm at that precipice. And to me, it's really the pandemic of 2020, the Great Recession of 2008. I'm there. I'm like, what's my next step? I had done a couple of real estate deals. They didn't go well. I said, I want to do this multifamily thing. So what I did is I went out and got coaching. I went out and I invested in my education. I usually say I spent money on my education, but to me, it was a big investment. And it was just the next stepping stone to meeting my partner, Jake, back in 2009. Jake moves down to Knoxville in 2011. From that, it takes us 18 months to find that first deal, but we stuck in there. I mean, like I said, the entrepreneurial journey, you're not going to find a deal in, first 2-3 months you're looking. I mean, if you do, you're amazing. You're a rock star. I wasn't a rock star. It took me a long time. But after that first deal, we found our second deal. And then after 6 months, we found our third deal. And I guess the rest is history. But for me, I knew back in 2008, I wasn't on the journey that I should be on. And fortunately for me, like I said, I went and got coached, found Jake, and I guess the rest is history.
It's amazing. I love it so much. What's the biggest challenge to overcoming getting out of your own way, Gino? Or what's the biggest secret to overcoming getting out of your own way and hiring that coaching?
Well, I'm going to give everyone a tip that I've been reflecting on the last few weeks. And it's, the word is proximity. Tony Robbins, a lot of these high level, thought leaders talk about proximity. And for me, the more people that I surround myself that are higher level than me, like Jake, like my partner, Mike, like I'm discussing a business deal with somebody else right now. His name is Rick. They are all high level, amazing people, and they bring so much to the table. And being surrounded by them, having that proximity, being able to learn from them, being able to be part of their mentorship has been amazing. So that's what happened for me with the accountability piece when I had with Jake and back in 2011. I may have quit after 6 months, but I was working with him and he was working with me. And we were holding each other accountable. I would do more for Jake right now than probably myself. I'm on this podcast because it's all about Jake and Gino and about holding our company accountable. If I didn't have that, if I didn't have the team members, I'd be like, you know what, maybe I'll skip the podcast. But it's not like that when you have the accountability. So for me, that proximity and that accountability is going to really help you out early on. And also that word clarity. I mean, most of us on this show, I almost guarantee you, we don't lack motivation. We lack clarity. Like I said, back in 2008, I was having that struggle. Well, what should I be doing? I don't want to be doing the restaurant. That wasn't the question I should be asking. What do you want to do? Not what you don't want to do. What do you want to do? And I knew in the back of my mind that I wanted to create an amazing company where people wanted to work. Like the Jake and Gino, brand, I have an amazing group of, employees. They all want to be there. We're all changing people's lives. And for me, people attract not what they want, but what they are. And back in 2008, I wasn't the person that I needed to be to attract those high level people. At the restaurant, I always complained about the employees. I should have been complaining about myself first, not having core values, not having a mission statement, not having a cadence of accountability, all these things that businesses need. I didn't know back then. These are things that you learn as you continue on your entrepreneurial journey. And it's really funny, Brett. There are so many signs out there of successful companies. Look at the Chick-fil-A's of the world. Look at Virgin Atlantic. Look at Apple. They're all out there. They all leave clues. Then look at the companies that crap out. Look at the Enrons of the world and all these other companies, WorldCom. What do they do wrong? It all comes from the top. That's why when people say CEOs are really vastly overpaid, I mean, it all depends what you think vastly overpaid is. If you have a CEO that drives a ship, that creates that culture, that creates those core values, and that guides the company forward and grows the company and changes people's lives, that to me is invaluable. It's very hard to find an individual like that has everyone beating to the same drum, especially day after day, year after year.
Amazing. What's the best secret to achieving clarity?
Well, I don't think people want to hear this answer, but I went to life coaching school. back in 2014, 2015. I wanted personal development. So for me, it was all about reading books. I've read hundreds and hundreds of books. And I said, I really want to work on personal development. I love Zig. I love Tony. I love Jim. I love Napoleon, but I really want to get down deep. I want to learn some of the skills. So I went to coaching school. I learned all about empowering questions. I learned all about energy levels. I learned all about setting goals. And for me, all of a sudden, when you start figuring out why you want to do something, the clarity and how to do it, it becomes amazing. And what I love about coaching, when you're coaching students and you're coaching other people, you're learning along the way. You're learning how to ask those great questions. You're learning how to pull stuff out of people. You're getting energized. You're on the road to helping people. And what really happens in return, it helps you. And for me, that clarity and getting those questions and learning how to ask myself those tough questions really helped me along my journey.
Next question, cadence of accountability. What is it and how have you implemented it to grow your company?
It sounds really sexy, to be honest with you. It just really isn't. What happens is when you start a company, it's just you and Jake. It's the I'm a mentality. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, right? We can go through the 7 levels of starting a successful business. But when you first start out, as an entrepreneur, you need to do everything. You're bootstrapping every single thing. So you buy your first deal, you're doing the QuickBooks. You buy your second deal, you got 60 units, you're doing QuickBooks, you're doing marketing, you're changing toilets, your septic fields blow out, you're out there cleaning the septic fields. But when you have 200 units, all of a sudden, that mind shift has to change. You need to shed that old person. You need to shed that old identity and start creating systems. And if you don't, then you're in the wrong business and you're not going to grow a business. You're going to be that employee / self-employed, as Robert Kiyosaki talks about. And Jake and I had that inflection. And we were both, Jake was a W-2 employee and I was a small business owner. So we didn't have these skills. These are skills that you need to learn, that you need to invest in your education. We went out and we got scaling up coaches for about a year and a half to figure out what our core values were. And this cadence of accountability came through really, really powerfully for us. And basically, I just want everyone to write this down. The cadence of accountability is touch points you have within your organization. The first one that we have is we have a weekly huddle with all of our different entities. We have 4 or 5 different entities now. We have a mortgage company, we have an education company, we have a syndication company, and we have a property management. So we call it the Ram Power Wheel. They're all different. They're all going in different directions. There's about 70 employees within the whole organization. But on a weekly, what we call the weekly huddle, we want to have discussion. It's about 45 minutes long of what's going on, our wins for the week, our losses for the week. We have metrics because if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So we have KPIs from each organization, each entity, and they work in such a nice synergistic way because let's say you want to get an education with Jake and Gino. Great. You may also want to invest with us. Go on to the capital company. Hey, you know what? You may want to invest with us also. As far as that goes, we have the syndication company. So the first one is that weekly huddle. The next one we have is we have a daily huddle internally, 8:45 every day, Tuesday through Friday, with Jake and Gino. So all of us get on 8:45 for 15, 20 minutes. Same thing. Wins, losses from the day before. What are our daily targets today? And any stuck points. Then we have something called our quarterly priorities. Every quarter, the Friday before the quarter ends, we set our priorities for the next quarter because Jake and Gino like to shotgun and we like to do 15, 16 priorities and we can do it, but our team members can't do it. So really lay out your priorities. Anything that takes longer than 8 hours is a priority. Building a website, writing a book, implementing a system that may take more than 8 hours. That goes on the priority sheet. And then what you want to do, a task is anything less than 8 hours. So when you're ripping down goals, you're setting the priorities. And then from that, you backdate it and you fill out what your tasks are to achieve that. Those are the quarterly priorities. Then we have a FOC, a family of companies meetings once a month. And for us, that's getting all the companies together. We do a webinar for the entire company. And 8:30 in the morning on a Wednesday, we'll get on once a month and discuss the achievements that each company's had and bring it into the forefront because a property management company may not know what the mortgage company is doing. So letting them all know is a great way to do it. And we have another thing we call level 10 meetings. We've got this from Traction. Our level 10 meetings are our weekly meetings with our leaders. So I have a weekly level 10 meeting with the sales staff. I have a weekly level 10 meeting with our operations manager. Then I have another one with my brother, who's a student success specialist. Those are touch points. And what we do is we have a level 10 sheet, yearly goals, quarterly priorities, weekly to do, and then we have a parking lot where we have any kind of ideas. So we're really going off of that doc and holding each one of us accountable. When it's done, we strike it off. It's not sexy, like I said, but this is what you need when you start growing in an organization. And what I want everyone to think about, this doesn't have to happen tomorrow. you guys can start picking these little things out and start implementing them slowly. Maybe you do a weekly huddle, right? And if you're in real estate, property management, and you're doing third-party property management, that weekly huddle is a must. Every week, you need to get on with the property management company at least once a week to find out what's going on. Be proactive and not reactive. And the other thing is, if you have partners, you should have a daily huddle every day. It's 10 or 15 minutes, and it's great. If you hate working with your partner, you got the wrong partner. I love being on my calls with Jake in the morning and stuff. That's what we live for. It should be scheduled. Just because don't say, I'm going to call you. Make sure you have a schedule every day to get on with your team daily, because so you'll know what's going on. And if anything happens, you want to be proactive. You don't want to be reactive. Being proactive and opening up those lines of communication is what makes an organization great.
Gino, amazing. We're talking with Gino Barbaro here, becoming a multifamily entrepreneur. You can find more about Gino Barbaro at jakeandgino.com. I think it's sexy, Gino. I think clarity's sexy. I like you. My wife and I got 5 kids, so 1 less than you. And we homeschool, baby. And
all right.
2 podcasts, 2 business, commercial real estate broker, capital gains tax solutions. Like we're doing things. And I think clarity is sexy. I think having a system is sexy. Now, I implemented a daily huddle with my team, about 30 minutes. I got to start with the quarterly ones, because we kind of do those, but we're not scheduling them, right? I mean, we do them, but we don't do them on a systematic basis. And things that don't get scheduled get forgotten or
right.
not prepared for, right? And so I love this sequence of basically cadence of accountability, different touch points. You guys should rewind that and watch that again. And then just like Gino said, and I think I'm gathering this, just take one of them. Like, what's the next one you can do? If you're not doing a weekly huddle, do a weekly one. If you're already doing a weekly one, maybe do a daily one. If you're not doing a quarterly one, right, maybe add a quarterly one. Just add one at a time and start implementing this into your system and to your schedule. Is that a fair summary, Gino?
Yep. And what I would say is Rome wasn't built in a day. Neither is a business. Every quarter. We're in March right now. Maybe the end of March on a Friday, pick 3 or 4 hours to set up the next quarter's priorities, but document everything. You need to document everything, and you need to hold each team member accountable. And if there's a task to build a priority to build a website, and Brett's going to build the website, well, Brett, every Monday on the huddle, Brett, what have you done to move the objective forward, to move that priority forward every week? And it's great because now this time of the quarter, we've got a lot of green because a lot of those priorities have already been knocked out. We've already sent the questionnaire out for the next quarter. So my questionnaire is already filled out. I already know next quarter I've got a youth academy that I need to start working on. I've got to shoot about 10 videos on flipping apartments. I know that I'm actually launching a book next quarter. I need to work on that. So I already know my priorities started for next quarter. And if something pops up, like last year in the pandemic, you need to be flexible with these. Nothing's written in stone. Last year in March, the pandemic hits. We had our priorities set. All of a sudden, residents can't go in to the office. So all of a sudden, virtual leasing just popped up. That became the priority. Everything got shipped off to the next quarter or to the parking lot, and we focus on that virtual leasing. So this is not stuff that has to be set in stone. But if you have a guide, you can work towards that guide, because if you plan it, it will get done. But if you don't, it's not going to get done.
Absolutely. And by the way, I just recently watched literally like a 15-minute time management video on YouTube. I just looked it up, and I put on my Google Calendar, colors of things that I'd like to, how my perfect day look like, right?
Yes.
Like, for example, in the morning, working out, reading and praying, meditating, looking at my goals, right? Doing that, right? That's generally speaking, I want to do that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, and then also Saturdays and Saturdays, maybe a Sunday, right? And then other times, like getting a time to literally like a 20-minute meditation nap in the middle of the day, if I can. Now, some days I can't because the day is just so crazy, but I know if I'm working on something and I go, wait, my schedule says to maybe try to do this. Now let's go do that, because I'm just going to pause and I'm rejuvenated. My mind's cleared, right? I feel refreshed. Again, it's placeholders, not that you have to do it. And this is what took the pressure off me. It's not like it's you have to block this time for all of this, although you should block things for certain things, right? Especially for family time and scheduling. But that helped get me in this middle space of I'll still keep going, but then I start to magically, it seems like the schedule starts to just go to where those things should be. So I don't know if I'm articulating this correctly per se, but all I could say is start to implement and time block as much as you can. And then even if it's just the first few months of just, this is what I'd like it to look like, make it a repeat on your Google Calendar or whatever calendar system you're using. and then start to try to plan your day around that. Is that a fair summary, Gino? What do you think?
Yes. And I would also add another thing to it. There's something that's called the learning zone and the performance zone. And I love this because I think Carol Dweck, she wrote in her book Mindset. Eduardo Brisenis was one of her students back in 2006. He's coming out with this book and he's done a great TED talk about it. But I want everyone, as an entrepreneur, we need to be in both zones. But most entrepreneurs are only in the performance zone, really performing out there, trying to crush it, trying to get good. We need to pull back and spend a few hours a week, Brett, on the learning zone. Be learning our craft, whether it's public speaking, whether it's underwriting deals, whether it's negotiating deals, whatever you need to be learning. You need to be really, intentional on your learning. And you need to have that learning zone time built out a few hours a week. And then obviously we get paid in the performance zone. But most of us spend all that time in the performance zone and we think we're getting better and practicing. But you need intentional practice. You need to be in the zone of learning. Block out all those distractions and focus on that learning zone. That's why the quarterly priorities, those 3 or 4 hours on a Friday before the next quarter, you're with your team, no distractions. You're actually able to focus on what the priorities are, and not even what they are, but why do you want to do these priorities? How is that going to move the company forward? Just don't do something to make it a priority, but why is it a priority? So being in that learning zone will help you out.
Beautiful. What's the number one thing for you right now that you're trying to learn?
To be a better public speaker, Jake and Gino, we've created a Toastmasters in the organization, in Jake and Gino, for the community, and it's been amazing. A lot less filler words, slowing down, being more intentional, thinking about it. I can't change my authenticity. I'm a New Yorker. I'm Italian. I speak a mile a minute. Sometimes I can't slow down. I get excited. That's something where, that's just me. But I can't make that excuse. I need to actually work on that and to be intentional about it. And if we have a Toastmasters every week for an hour, I'm working on that for an hour, hour and a half. It's a great team builder. It's just makes you work on that craft. It makes you think about it. And what it does also is you can start comparing yourself to others. Well, I like the way that person did that, or I like his style or her style, or how they created the story, or how they used inflection in their voice, or whatever it may be. That's something that I'm working on. And I think the other thing also is just to become a better teacher. When you start teaching, people are very, very intelligent. Jesus said it best. We're getting the fishes of men. You have to really rip it down and make people understand these high, and difficult concepts like a cap rate, let's say, or a cash on cash return, making people understand it, not losing them, having that content where they can consume it, not like after 5 or 6 minutes, it's like, this is way over my head, because you know how a lot of people speak. We all want to sound like experts. And sometimes that's not the case. You just want to be able to present your ideas to people and have them understand those ideas.
That being said, this was the idea that I had on that thought is it was called the success or the fulfillment formula. And let me know what you think about this, Gino. The fulfillment formula goes like this. It's that one strength that you've been given, or that key strength, right?
Mm-hmm.
A core gift that maybe you're given, times maximizing the potential of that gift, times the impact you have for others, the number of people you're impacting, divided by trusting in, for me, it's God, or trusting that what you're doing is for a higher purpose. That equals fulfillment, right? But when we're not using that gift, or if we have that gift and we're not maximizing the potential. So in your scenario, you're going, hey, it's public speaking, it's communicating, right? So you have that gift, you have that. But if you're not maximizing the potential, there's going to be a part of that formula where it's just not as, it's not as fulfilling. Plus, if you're maximizing the potential, but you're not impacting others, guess what? The fulfillment's not really there. But if you're doing all three of those things and you're trusting it's for a higher purpose, that's when fulfillment comes rushing in. Any thoughts on that?
And it's really working on your sole purpose, don't you think? I mean, for me, I don't even think it was a strength. It's just something that I was pushed into, almost like sales. I always thought sales was terrible, and that wasn't a quote-unquote strength. I think we all have strengths. We can be good at anything we want to be good at. That's the thing. I think we're brought up into saying, this person's this kind of person, this guy's that kind of person. No, that's not how it is in life. You really want to gravitate to what you like. I never liked the public speak. I never enjoyed it. But then I saw the effect that I had on people, and I saw the effect that I had of how being able to grow an organization and being an entrepreneur, getting on stage and sharing those thoughts and persuading people is a really important part of being an entrepreneur. So whether I don't have the strength, or I do or I don't, I need to work on it. And working on that strength, and I wrote it down, maximizing my potential. Maximize my potential is constantly working on and constantly getting better. And then having the impact by having people close on deals, by having students leave their W-2, then divided by trusting in God. I mean, that's core to us. I mean, he's given me an amazing life. He's given me all the tools. I mean, I was born with 2 amazing parents. I got an amazing wife. if I fail in life, then feel bad for a lot of other people because I have a lot of other advantages. But it doesn't mean I'm going to be successful just because I have those advantages. I need to work on those. And those two, the strength and maximizing potential, are really important. So I love that formula.
Beautiful. And I can't say it's like my formula. I think I got it from someone else or kind of put a couple together. But yes, and I love the sole purpose, right? Getting out of the way of yourself, right? Sometimes you go like, well, I don't really like that, or it's not my personality, or it's this. Well, it's like, well, back up. Let's get out of the way. If you can make an impact for others, and guess what? Take the action and step through that. Have the courage to go through that. By the way, the first time I got on YouTube, Gino, I was scared out of my mind. I didn't want to be on YouTube. I didn't want to be on video. But I'm looking at this camera and the lighting's bad, and I'm in my house and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be bad. And I posted it and I'm like, oh, I gotta just post it. I gotta just press through. It's not gonna be perfect. I probably did it 30 times, right? The first video. So bad. I've since gone back and deleted those, right? Or at least my YouTube is unlisted, right? But now fast forward, it's been about a year, I get a chance to meet folks like Gino, right? I get folks to get folks on my podcast because I went through that uncomfort zone. So that being said, we've talked about life and a bunch of other stuff, but Gino actually has a cool business, and it's about helping you become a multifamily entrepreneur by investing. So we're running out of time though. So Gino, do you want to just tell them where they can find you and then tell them briefly about what you guys offer?
Sure. I mean, everyone just go to jakeandgino.com. We've got 4 weekly podcasts. We've got the multifamily zone with my wife, and Brett had talked about someone who's scared about talking on camera. It's my wife. She was petrified. I got her on, and it's like one of those accountability things. I got her on right next to me. We do a bi-weekly podcast on the multifamily zone. It's all about spousal communication. It's about growing a family. It's about how amazing business and family are so similar. They have that cadence of accountability. You have to have those core values in your business and in your family. So I love doing that show with her. We have a show called The Movers and Shakers. That's our students closing deals. We have the flagship Wheelbarrow Profits show. I love that show every week with Jake. And then we have a Rand CRE show. And then, go on, Jake. And, we have tons of blogs, tons of articles, tons of, resources there. What we did is we just launched a book. I'm going to hold it up for everybody. It's Creative Cash. One of our coaches just wrote the book. We just published it for him about a month ago. Hit Amazon #1 bestseller. This is an amazing book because right now, seller financing is going to be a buzzword in the next 12 to 18 months because it's going to be hard to get that financing. I mean, there's a lot of deals out there, and I think seller financing, master lease options are great. So if anybody wants a copy, just email me, Gino at jakeandgino.com. Go online, buy a copy on Kindle, leave a review, and I will send you a copy, hard copy in the mail. So love to send one out to everybody.
Amazing. Now we're going to tie in for those who are listening for Capital Gains Tax Solutions, figuring out creative ways to do things. By the way, seller carrybacks are a creative way to help the seller defer the capital gains tax.
Yes.
And it can help you make a deal, right? That's the #1 reason why they want to do that. Now we have a deferred sales trust. We like to say it's an installment sale or seller carryback on steroids, right? Which gets even more stuff we can get into. But I'm curious, Gino, what's the biggest frustration that you've seen when it comes to capital gains tax deferral options? And that could be pretty broad. That could be 1031 related. That could be syndication related. That could be, not being able to sell cryptocurrency and then defer the tax and move it into real estate. Like, what's the biggest frustration that you've seen when it comes to capital gains tax deferral?
I think the capital gains, the 1031 is tough because right now, especially in this market, because you've got a great property, you're selling it, but then on the other end, you need to buy a property, and it's like, am I selling my property at a profit to buy this property that's overpaid? I'm gonna overpay because I want to defer my taxes. So if you can find the solution and you've got a property in mind and you've got one and being able to lock it up, we haven't been able to do that. So that is probably our biggest frustration right now, trying to pull through a 1031 with all of the timing requirements needed, 45 days to identify, 6 months to be able to close. That is probably one of our biggest frustrations right now in the market.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. We call that the shotgun wedding, right? You get engaged for 45 days and you get married 180. And sometimes shotgun weddings don't turn out great. And then when you have low inventory, low cap rates, right? And you have very low financing that's just pushing up real estate values, right? You want to be careful not to overpay. And that's why we offer the Deferred Sales Trust. We actually just saved a failed 1031 exchange out of Georgia. The guy, $7.6 million deal, 126 units. And this guy's been in it for 30 years, and he's looking around. He's going, oh my gosh, but COVID-19 hit. And he's like, I don't want to touch anything. And he's a baby boomer, right? He kind of wants to be a little more passive, although he still wants to be active when the deals come back. So he used the Deferred Sales Trust for the first time, paid off all of his debt, parked the cash, and put it into a couple different syndications passively. But his plan is to actually come back and buy real estate with the trust at a future date. all tax deferred, by the way, when the market drops. He's in California, and that might take a couple of years. But it's actually very powerful. You can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to learn more about that. And or if you're a listener and you're a syndicator or an operator or commercial broker or luxury broker, you can go to experttaxsecrets.com. That being said, we are out of time, everybody. Thank you so much for the bugs for this show and listening, pushing through. And we appreciate you and look forward to